Welcome to the 9 months results, or to the third quarter results of the DNR Group 2025. Thank you very much for attending and welcome back at our results presentation with, of course, me present next to you, as well as the CFO, Michele de Kula, and our COO, Adina Truvas. Thank you very much for, again, attending this call. And if you're new here, if it's your first time, welcome. We will go to the presentation. We will discuss results today, and at least from the management team perspective, we are proud and confident in the results presented in 9 months. A lot of hard work went into that, especially if we think of the execution the management team, but the entire 300 employees of the DNR Group have implemented this year. Think of start of the Straja farm, while constructing, but also operating far ahead, but at least ahead of schedule with the number of animals. The first operation of the first compost plant at the Apold farm. We had the largest investor day. We had changed the management team. We announced a new strategy. The second compost plant, we started exports to Greece, to Italy. So far, it's an extremely busy year, as well as we have record results this year, and we are really fast growing. So the order will be financial results, operational activity, capital market. Then we will also go to the projects, because I can share already a little secret with you that we are planning a shareholders meeting to approve financing for several projects. So that we will discuss today as well when this shareholder meeting will be, what are more or less the amounts. Don't worry, they will all be financed by banks, so no major capital increase for the moment. As well, the loan, I said the value of the loan, of course, as well as I think I can share as well a bit the interest rates, etc. And then, of course, we have the outlook, as I said, next year. And then there's also room for questions. There are quite some questions sent in advance. I don't know the exact number. I think 10 or 12. First, we'll go to these questions. And if there are additional questions, we will answer them as well. So that's mainly it. I would like to make you aware that this meeting is recorded, as well as that there is Romanian translation available. So, and of course, the recordings from today, normally they will be published, I think, tomorrow or the day after, but that should normally work if all the IT works. Of course, we go quickly through. We are the largest milk producer in the EU already for quite a while. This year, we aim to produce 70 million liters of milk. The company is founded by my father in 2008. We are also listed for over 3 years on the Arrow market. This year, we have a share price growth of 90%. Since listing, we have a share price growth of over 300%. We are one of the fastest growing companies on the Romanian market. Today, we have 5 farms, 1 compost plant, 17,000 cattle. And with the strategy announced in June, of course, in the coming years, we will grow to at least 30,000 animals. That's including the Q2 farm. So that means, and then I can answer directly already one of the questions. One of the questions is if we will have more cows in the future than 16,000. At the moment, we have 17,000 animals. That's something that's different than cows. But yes, because in an optimal scenario, you have 2/3 cows or dairy cows and 1/3 young stock. So with the implementation of the Q2 farm, if we optimize the herd structure, we will have over 20,000 dairy cows, and the rest will be young stock. So yes, that will mean we go over the 16,000. Several crops, but Adina will go into to that part. And we go to the next slide. And a track record so far, 52 million delivered. As I said, the goal for the end of the year is 70 million. We are quite confident that we will reach that. Currently, we have an increase of over 11%. I think it's even almost 12% so far, while we estimated more or less a 10% increase. So we are clearly on track of that. And especially if you look to the last couple of months, If you compare month to month, the differences are around 20%. So things are going quite well. We see that the implementation of the Straatje farm and the operations of the Straatje farm start to be fruitful. Sustainable agriculture, that becomes more and more important. We do a lot of no-till technology. We're significantly investing in compost as a business model, as well as reducing our emissions. That is really in our DNA. One of our pillars in our strategy is to produce net zero milk in 2030, as we see that is probably the trend in the coming years. So we are heavily investing in that. Also, the biomethane project is a big part of that strategy as well. Of course, market position, I mentioned already, we are the largest milk producer in the EU, plus the UK. And in the coming years, we will not only consolidate that position, but we will extend that position and even make this foundation stronger. Then we go to the next slide. Our current business model, crop production, mainly we produce the feedstock for our own animals, for the farms. The manure goes to the compost factory today, and this we will sell to wineries, vegetable farms, etc. As well as the milk, of course, goes to milk processors today. Solar panels we have invested as well, but we will go later in the presentation. We will discuss the status of that. Then we go to the financial results, and I would like to introduce you Michaela Nicula, CFO of the DNAGAR Group.
Good evening. Good evening, and welcome to all participants. Today I will present the company's financial performance for the third quarter with a focus on recent achievements. So, in the first 9 months of the year, the company recorded a positive evolution determined mainly by the performance of the operating activity. The increase in livestock led to an 11% growth in milk production compared to the same period last year, contributing to a turnover of 158 million RON, also supported by 20% increase in the milk selling price. An essential indicator for evaluating the operational performance is EBITDA, which increased by 55% compared to the previous period, reaching 77 million RON, thus reflecting efficient cost management and the growth of the operating activity. Next slide, please. The operating profit reaches 60 million RON, most influenced by the evolution of operating income, up with 27% compared to September 2024. In the structure of operating income, the largest part is held by the production sold, followed by the production in progress. Production in progress represents the value of the works and production carried out, but not finalized by the end of the period, such as growing animals and agriculture crops at various stages of development, subsequently intended for feed production. These indicators reflect the continuity of the production process and contribute to the information of the farm's future income. An important part of operating income is also held by income from subsidies that reached the value of approximately 22 million RON by September 2025, which will contribute also to the result from the last part of the year. Then follows income related to the production of tangible assets, also increasing by 24% compared to September 2024. Reflecting the inclusion in the fixed assets category of cows in production, which generate income through milk deliveries. Basically, the transition of the young herd to the category of productive cows contributes to the increase in the value of the company's assets and to the consolidation of the capacity to generate income in the long term. Operating expenses also registered an increase of 15%, but the trend of this increase was lower compared to the evolution of operating incomes. This allowed the company to improve its profitability and maximize the economic results generated from current activity. Within operating expenses, personnel expenses have the largest share, followed by depreciation expenses and external services. The increase in these expenses compared to the previous period reflects investments and expansion of the activity. This increase is necessary in order to support the higher production volume, but also the quality of it. Next slide, please. Net profit is influenced not only by the operating result, but also by the financial component. So that at the end of this period, we record losses from exchange rate differences and interest of almost 8 million RON. This negative impact is due to the devaluation of the national currency and the revaluation of foreign currency debts, but this is more of an accounting effect and not a real deterioration of the financial position. The increase in profit tax by 86% up to the value of approx 9 million RON is mainly due to the increase in operating profit, which generates a larger taxable base. Thus, the positive evolution of operational performance had a direct impact on the level of the company's tax obligation. Next slide. If we look now at the company's balance sheet structure, at the present date, there is a proportional rhythm between the growth of fixed assets and that of depreciation of approx 16% increase, which reflects efficient investment management and stability in depreciation policy. The company managed to develop its technical base without generating a pressure on operating expenses, maintaining like this a balance between investments and self-financing capacity. In the first 9 months of the year, the company made investment for 42 million RON, consisting in construction of Straja Farm, 23 million, development of composting line in Lacto Agrar, 5 million, installation of solar panels, 7 million, and acquisition of agricultural equipment for about 7 million also. Net working capital recorded an increase of 22% at the end of the first 9 months of the year, the company having greater short-term financial resources to cover its current obligation and to support its daily activity. Our company generates a return on asset of 10%, which shows an efficient use of assets, and a return on equity for 26%. All these results demonstrating that the investments are profitable and that we are ready to expand the business with additional investments. All the investments to the main strategic projects of the group determine the increase in long-term debts toward banks and leasing companies by 17% compared to the end of the year 2024. We consider that a debt ratio of 74% moderate and strategic, giving our company the opportunity to invest and increase production without increasing financial risk. As you can see, our asset structure is balanced. 50% of the assets are financed by equity and 50% by debt. Thus, as of September 2025, we record total assets of 418 million RON, equity of 208 million RON, and total debts on the same value, 208 million RON. Next slide, please. By investing equity and using loans strategically, the company managed to generate a net profit of 43 million RON and a profit margin of 27% at the end of September this year, correlated with the efficient use of resources, careful cost management, and the superior utilization of the farm's productive potential. Financial growth of Denia Agrar from the date of listing on Euro Stock Exchange market in 2022 up to present can be followed over the following indicators. In the growth rate of turnover of 53%, growth rate of EBITDA of 138%, and growth rate of net profit of 305%. Next slide, please. The results in the following period will be influenced by the regularization of the cost of vegetable production, initially recorded at standard cost. This adjustment will determine a recalibration of the value of inventories at the level of effective real cost, either by increasing or decreasing profit, depending on the direction of the deviation between standard and real cost. However, for the fourth quarter, we still estimate a positive evolution of profitability, but at a lower level compared to previous periods. The main factors that will determine this situation are the decrease in the selling price of milk in the next period and the impact of drought on crop production and operational costs. With this, I will let my colleague Adina to continue the presentation with details about our activities. Thank you for your attention.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mihaela. I will take you to the operational activity. In the first 9 months of 2025, DNA Agrar delivered 52 million liters of milk, an 11% increase compared to the same period of last year. Monthly output stays stable, over 5.8 million liters, confirm consistent performance across all the farms. As you can see on the slide, October also continued this trend, which gives us the confidence that we will reach our 2025 target of 70 million liters of milk. This growth is also supported by the expansion of our herd, which reached 17,000 heads at the September, a 12% increase versus 2024. Next slide, please. The updated rainfall data for the first 9 months confirms the severity of this year's drought. Total precipitation in 2025 is only about a half what we measured in 2024, same period. The soil moisture map published in September shows that our region is strongly affected by the drought. The lack of water, together with the changes in temperature, affects clearly our agricultural activity. As a result, crop performance and overall the production were strongly affected by the lack of water during the most important months of growing plants of the year. Next slide, please. So in crop production, the difference between 2024 and 2025 is clearly driven by rainfall. Triticale yields declined from 31 tons per hectare to 21, wheat remains stable at 5.2 tons, as these crops use the moisture stored in the soil during the winter. The crops that depend on the spring and summer rainfall, lucerne and corn, were the most affected by drought. Lucerne dropped from over 20 tons to 10 tons per hectare, while corn silage, our main crop important for feeding cows, dropped from 31.5 to 18 tons per hectare this year. In this context, we have decided to fully extend our no-till and minimum till technology. With this method, we managed to retain more water in the soil, to reduce labor costs, cut fuel consumption, and ensure more sustainable crop management. To ensure enough food for our dairy cows, DNA Agrar took proactive measures by securing early contracts to buy cereals and protein meals at advantageous prices. These actions allowed us to fully cover our food needs despite the difficult agricultural year. Next slide, please. So current project, Straja Farm. Straja is our most recent and significant investment in milk production. The project started in 2023 and will be completed in 2027, reaching 5,000 dairy cows. We started the production in March this year, and by September we reached 1,900 animals. We populate the farm faster than we estimated. At the same time, we installed the milking robots, bringing automatization and efficiency to a new level. You can go to the next slide. Construction works are ongoing, and we are continuing to increase the herd gradually. Our objective is to complete most of the construction fast next year, so that the construction team can go fast to the other projects. Straja is also the farm where we welcome our investors during this year's Investor Day. You saw the scale of the project directly on the site, and now you can see on the pictures how the development continues according to the plan. As a new farm, Straja will have its subsidy reference period set on February 2026 for the number of cows, while the reference year for milk production will be this year of production 25-26. You can see here the rotary milk parlor. We have there 2 rotary milk parlors which can milk 300 cows per hour one, so 600 cows per hour in total, and our milk storage. In 2026, we expect around 3,400 cows to be in production and pregnancy. And by the end of 2027, the farm will reach its full capacity of 5,000 cows, become one of the largest and modern farm facility in the region. Next slide, please. Our compost factories are key pillar of Deniagrar circular economic model. At Apolt, the estimated production for 2025 is around 3,500 tons. The second compost facility located to Lactoagrar will become operational in the coming weeks. Once both factories are fully functional, the annual production capacity will grow up to 14,000 tons per year. We are in the final stage with the certification process through EcoCert, which will officially certify our compost as organic fertilizer in Romania. The certification process is expected to be completed in the beginning of 2026. In addition, we have initiated also the certification at European level. Separately, we are also in the process to obtain the gold standard carbon certification, which will allow us to generate revenues on the voluntary carbon market. Based on this production of both compost factories, we expect to receive our first 32,000 carbon credits starting next year. The compost which we produce, we are using for our soil part to improve our fertility of our soil, and the part is sold outside of the company. Next slide, please. Solar panels. Deniagrar continue to strengthen its energy strategy with new investment in renewable energy. This year, we completed the installation of solar panels on the roofs on Apolt, Lactoagrar, and Wood Farm. The project was worth at 1.7 million euros, and 60% from this amount was funded through the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, PNRR. The system has a total installed capacity of 2,218 kilowatts. In the second phase, the farms were also equipped with battery-based energy storage system to maximize efficiency. The installations are fully functional, and their complete commissioning will be finalized once the infrastructure for increased power capacity will be completed next year. The main objective are to reduce companies' carbon emission and to secure a renewable energy source for our internal operation. Looking ahead, we plan to integrate solar panels and battery storage system in Straja as well to further improve energy efficiency. You can see in pictures Wood Farm and Lactoagrar Farm solar panels. Next slide. Biomethane. Biomethane project is a part of our long-term sustainability strategy and is being developed in the partnership with the Black Sea Oil and Gas Energy. Deniagrar will supply the raw material for the biomethane production, while Black Sea Oil Energy will build and operate the facility, which is designed to reach a total capacity up to 15 to 20 megawatts. This project is progressing as we planned. The supply and development contracts were signed in July, and the finalization of land acquisition by Deniagrar allows the project to move to the next phase. Black Sea Oil and Gas has already advanced the engineering work together with the German industrial service group Bilfinger. In the coming months, The design of the plant will be completed together with all permitting procedures. Construction is expected to take around 2 years from the moment of the final agreement. The total investment is estimated around 30 million euros. And for the Agrar, we expect the revenue of 3.5 million euro per year. Thank you for your attention, and I will now hand over to Peter.
Thank you very much, Michaela and Tadina, for giving us the insights for the financials and the current projects. I think it is good to add to the biomethane project, because maybe it seems for some of you, okay, it goes slowly, takes time, but things are moving quite progressively. We signed last year the cooperation agreement in, I think it was September or October. Of course, then we needed to negotiate the development agreement and the supply agreement that was signed this year as well, makes the next step. But in the meantime as well, we needed to purchase the land. And we purchased over 20 hectares, because if you all know, you cannot buy like a square of buildable land necessarily in Romania. So when you purchase 20 hectares of land, it means you need to have tens of people, of landowners to contact to purchase it, which is a lot of time. Even many times 0.2 hectare can be owned by 10 family members. So it's not only acquiring land, it is also being a psychologist. We made families who didn't speak for many years with each other. We had people who living abroad. Some people were not even aware they had the land there. So all these kind of things, certain parts is not in the cadastre, etc. So this takes a lot of time to acquire a plot where we can build not only the biomethane plants, but as well a wheat press facility, a skimmed milk and cream facility, and the Kut 2 farm, plus 2 composting stations. So our topography team worked for months, really, really hard to go to all these kind of people, to go to these villages. We needed to fly in people from abroad to show them the piece of land. Of course, then you have always some people who try to be smart and ask more money. Now, this we can never accept, because as soon as you pay to one landowner more than the other, you will have a whole fight, etc. So that involves a lot of strategy. We had people who got sick. And all these kind of things. So that these kind of things take time. Next to that, now the land acquisition is finalized, more or less also for the Kut2 farm and for the other projects that we would like to install there. So that's already a couple of months. So we're now in the permitting phase. That will also take a couple of months. We estimated the permitting phase will be finalized end of Q1, beginning of Q2. Then also FID will be taken, the final investment decision. The truth is, of course, that still the legislation is not implemented yet for injection into the grid. We don't see this as a giant deal breaker for the project. Romania is obliged by EU law to implement this kind of legislation. So it's not a matter if, but only a matter when. So in a worst case scenario, okay, the project could be delayed. Although we are quite confident, as there are a lot of working groups, etc., on government level, that this legislation will be implemented on time. But like with anything in politics, you never know until it is implemented, let's say. So, but things are looking well, especially now also that Black Sea Oil and Gas contract is a German company. It's clear also that they need to start to invest, etc., into this project. So the commitment is clear there, and we still estimate that the project will start to produce and generate revenues and gas, of course, from the beginning of 2028, and that's also reflected in our budget. Then we go quickly on to the capital markets story. Of course, I mentioned already we have an amazing year. I hope at least that you're satisfied. We grow our stock grow around 90%. Since 3 years, I said over 300%. So we are clearly outperforming indexes of both markets. Also, we look to the traded value. We are on top, and there are many periods already that we can also be part more or less, or that we can compete with a part of the index, the bet index companies, let's say, of the main market. So things looking well. We increased our shareholder base to, when we started, there were around 150. Today there are 3,700. It's a significant increase. We significantly increased our liquidity, as well as the countries where we have shareholders, which you can see on the left bottom of your screen. And of course, we got a lot of recognition, not only in Romania, by ARIR, by other, we received quite some other awards, but also on a European level. This year, again, we were nominated for the IR Magazine Awards in Europe, hosted in London, which are always really interesting events. This year, we participated, Lakshmi and I, to an event there, and we were sitting next to the investor relations manager of AB InBev, of a German company with a valuation of over 50 billion euros. Etc. So these are really that is really interesting to be part of that, and to be also be nominated between these kind of companies. So let's move quickly on. Also, if we go to the previous, we don't need to move to the previous screen, but there you see that we have almost evaluation of 100 million euros market cap. Of course, we expected after publishing these kind of results that we would easily reach this 3.12 lei, but okay, now hopefully it will follow in the coming period. But that was one of the main conditions to do the upgrade to the main market, which we will announce normally in December. If we go in 2026 to the main market of the Bucharest Stock Exchange, or it will be 2027. And I think a big part, or what will be a big driver to the decision, that's mainly the part for the agro-food cluster. I will come back to that a bit later in the presentation. We started negotiations, looking for partners, etc., for this project, which could result already next year in the first purchase of land for the location, etc. So, although it's maybe a bit quiet around this project, we are progressively moving on in this direction, and of course, around their project, we expect an MCS. So mainly it will indicate does that MCS need to take place in 2026 or 2027, and probably we will combine that with the upgrade to the main market of the Bucharest Stock Exchange. Share price in September, it was 281. I think currently it's we are a bit under that, and as I mentioned already, both indexes we are clearly outperforming if we look here on the screen. Then we go to the next slide. As I said already, first position in Beto Arrow for 2025 year to date, 24% DN share of the Bet Arrow index year to date, and also I don't know if you can really compare this, but of course 63% of the 2025 traded value of TTS, the company. This company is currently at the bottom of the index, let's say. And you, of course, you can clearly see here an increase in the liquidity as well, especially if we look to the years. We are already close to the liquidity that we had in the entire year of 2024. Then we go on to the next slide. Main market, as I mentioned already, one of the main conditions was or is a market cap of around 100 million euros. Why do we think that this is so important? Well, we meet already for a long time, for a couple of years, institutional investors, pension funds, etc., asset managers, and what they advised us more or less to, if they look to companies, etc., and for us, mainly the only reason to do the upgrade to the main market is to get institutionals on board, to do MCS in larger amounts. Of course, and further professionalize the company and attract a larger pool of investors. But I would say the main driver is to attract capital from pension funds and institutional investors. So that was one of the conditions. IFRS. Currently, we are restating Q3 for IFRS. I expect the results to have by the end of November. Also, we are auditing currently the evaluator, because we go from a cost calculation method to fair value method, which means that we will see quite a discrepancy between our current result and the IFRS result. The results will increase by the implementation of IFRS. Also, we will probably record some videos, or maybe we'll organize in the coming period a special call for the implementation of IFRS, because also I think we will need to explain with how things are registered. To give you an example, currently register the subsidies equally through the year. With IFRS, this is something that will change. So also the results throughout the year, as probably you got used to, will change. As of course the subsidies will only be registered when they are really into our account. But that's a thing. But these kind of things we will explain to you how to read these kind of reports. As I said, decision taking in a bit of 1 month normally. IFRS reporting, of course, we will publish the restatements from 2024 and 2025 and the end result as well of 2023. And from a quarterly basis, we will start to report in IFRS from Q1 2026. So that will be somewhere in May. That we will, next to the RAS or the gap, we will also report in IFRS. Then we move swiftly on to the next slide. We go to the outlook. Okay, we start over 10% increase. We have already 11%, even a bit more. So we will normally achieve the 70 million liters of milk, but it is clearly some headwind coming. We are confident that we will reach the revised budget. We published a budget, let's say on net profit, with an estimation between 48 million to 52 million in that range. This, while we revised the budget, we mainly took in consideration the difficult year that we have for crop production. I mean, 2024 was an extremely good year for crop production. 2025 was it was a really bad year for crop production, which meant we need to purchase needed to purchase food extra on the market, etc. And also we need to take some measurements for next year. So that will have an effect, the recalculation, because we registered throughout the year the standard cost, and now we need to do this recalculation, as well as that we estimated a drop in milk price, a small drop in milk price. But we will see on the next slide that especially in December, the milk price in our case will decrease more significantly. Besides that, we are still comfortable that we will reach the budget. But if we compare Q4 with Q4 last year, we will have a reduction in basic milk price, because our milk price, we have a basic milk price plus a bonus for fat and protein. But the basic milk price will be on average 3% lower than what we received in Q4 last year. Again, for this year, we don't estimate a significant impact on the budget, and that we are confident to end up in this range, which of course will mean another record year for the DNAGAR group. Why there is this drop? Because normally in this part of the year we don't really see this drop in milk price. There are two main reasons, I would say. First of all, it is the weak dollar compared to the euro, which means that the United States can export more milk, and that European milk got more, relatively speaking, more expensive. Secondly, it has to do with the cycle, because usually the milk production goes through a cycle every year. But because the last couple of years we had blue tongue, anti-mouth, and claw disease, which meant there was less milk on the market because certain cows died, as well as with blue tongue, etc. In these kind of periods, cows don't generally get pregnant, or at least not easily pregnant, which meant that it was later on those cows got pregnant after those diseases were resolved, and they gave birth to calves. So now this brings additional milk on the market. I've read quite some reports with the estimations. If we discuss with the milk processors, no one expected this, because on the long term it is clear that there will be less and less milk on the European market. In the coming 10 years, a lot of farmers will stop, and those businesses will get liquidated because they don't have succession, as well as that still there is a lot of EU legislation implemented into welfare for animals. In the case you don't have succession and you're today 55 or 50 years old, it's not, from an economic point of view, a good investment decision. So also those relative younger farmers will generally stop their business. So if we look on the long term, we expect high milk, maybe not as high as we had this year, but at least if you compare to the last 5 years, relatively high milk prices. But we will have some headwind in December, and we expect also in the first months of 2026. Although our milk price, as mentioned many times, is mainly based on an average of 6 Northwestern European countries, and the current milk price, most farmers perform on break even, or they are now on loss. So anyway, this is not so sustainable. Secondly is, because this change in cycle normally should mean that will come a shortage earlier next year, because those cows now start to be in their high production phase. So for now, what we can oversee it is something temporary. Of course, it's not fully clear, as well as, of course, we don't have control about in regards to the dollar, but there's nothing to be shocked on. Anyway, I think it is not so relevant to a certain degree. Of course, it's a commodity, and it is every month changing. But if we look to the investments that we are currently doing, I would say that DNKR is in the biggest transformation in the history of the company, as preparing to become even more future-proof than as we are today. We have huge investment plans announced in the 2025 strategy. Next year, we will have our first production facility with 150,000 liters for cream and skimmed milk, to reduce transportation costs and increase our exports to Greece and northern Italy, but also to diversify our client portfolios, not only to deliver to processing plants, but also to companies like food processing companies like Nestle, Unilever, bakery factories. We could sell milk with an exact amount of fat. So we could contract milk with, if a factory needs 1.6% fat, we could exactly deliver that, which will optimize their results. As well, of course, that we are working on this net zero milk, where we expect in the future to have an additional fee on as well. So that's not the only thing. We are also further increasing, of course, our compost. We are working on biomethane, and on the longer term, relatively longer term, but we expect also some results there in the coming years, is on the greenhouses. So lots of investments are going on. In the meantime, we take control of our own food supply by replacing approximately 30% of conventional crops and imports of rapeseed for the production of wheatgrass in an indoor farm. So on the short term, we will see pressure on the milk price. We are not worried on this, as we keep on investing also in dairy. We will come later in the presentation to the Kutu farm investments, which hopefully where you will all approve financing of around 10 million euros in January, and we estimate to start construction next year, and milk production in 2028. Then we go to the next slide. Here we go to the European market. Of course, this milk price is paid to the producers in October. So here we still see a small decrease, but we will see later on that there will come a more significant drop. A good indicator is always the spot milk price. We are generally not really impacted by the spot milk price, because the far majority of our milk is contracted, so we receive a higher price of the spot milk, the daily trade. But the spot milk price today is around 29-30 cents. So of course that is a huge drop from what it was. For a while ago, it was almost 70 cents. So it is a huge drop there. We never reached these highs of 70 cents, but we also never reached the bottom, let's say. So we will see in the coming months if it will start to stabilize and will go up. As I mentioned already, our price is connected to this Northwestern European average, where farmers feel the pressure. So it's clearly not sustainable to go on like this for a long time. We see here, okay, amount collected in Romania, especially in Bulgaria, we see quite an increase. In Hungary, we see quite an increase in milk production. Also, the Hungarian price for Hungarian methods generally is cheaper milk, but even the processors are currently complaining that Hungarian milk is relatively expensive. What we generally see in these kind of periods is that farmers start to optimize herd because there's an oversupply, and that's something we also do. So, for example, to give you an example, at the Apold farm, so we will take more animals out of the production cycle that are not performing. This is a good period that still meat prices are still relatively high, so it's a good period now to not try to produce even more milk, but it's a good period for selecting your herd and to do some reorganizations there to remain competitive. And that is also what we see in Western Europe. Let's say a lot of animals are taking out of production, which automatically means that in time milk production will slow down and the price will increase. Then we go to the next slide. So here we see the dynamics. You should look to the purple line for this year. And last year it is the green line. So you can see that we were significantly above the green line from last year. That also resulted in the first 9 months of a higher milk price of around 20%. But you see that in November we are for the first time under the green line, just slightly, and we have a more significant drop in December. That was quite a correction. Why such a big step? The parameter where our milk price is linked to, they analyzed and they said, okay, they should have normally this started to slightly decrease the milk price 1 or 2 months earlier. So it was quite a harsh one, but there was also part of a correction involved of too high milk price in those months before. So normally it should have gone slightly higher, which could be a sign that it will not decrease that much further on. But okay, this we don't know at the moment. I think we should really see how this performs, and we will have more knowledge in February or March in this regards next year. But still, our milk price is above the price what we see over here. This is the base price, so we will get normally an additional bonus for the fat and the protein. Then we move on to the scenarios. Okay, currently, of course, if you look to the scenarios for this year, we are closely around between 3 and scenario 4. Generally, our budgets are at the beginning of the year usually made more closely around scenario 2. We will update scenarios for next year when we update the budget. The budget we will not publish in January or February, mainly to see what the effect will be. But of course, we will inform you accordingly in our newsletters. And I expect that we will publish the budget in March next year. Then we move on. So we announced, of course, our strategy. As I said, we are in a huge transformation at the moment, going from mainly one revenue stream to a diversified revenue stream, compost, biomethane, vertical farming, alternatives for valorizing the milk, which is the first plant that will come operational next year if financing is approved by our shareholders in January. We expect that it will become operational around the summer. It will have a production capacity of 150,000 liters. That will be the full production capacity that the Straja 1 farm can produce per day. But of course, this farm will not produce that already next year. Normally, we will reach that production state in 2027, I assume, latest 2028. And the goal is also to not contract the milk from the Straja farm to milk processors, but to sell it outside of Romania, as far as we can oversee now, because also the price cap is still into place in Romania on dairy products. So we will mainly look for Greece and Italy, but of course also for other type of companies, as I mentioned, not only milk processors, but also think of food processors, bakery factories, etc. Yeah, so if we see here the timeline, of course, as I mentioned already, the Straja 1 farm this year in production, estimated by the end of the year 1,800 animals. Currently, we are already on 1,900. By the end of the year, we expect to have at least 2,200 dairy cows. Of course, it depends also a bit on the weather, how fast we can progress with the construction, but we are quite confident that we will reach that target. And then we have still January, February to further even increase a bit more animals, let's say. But okay, it will be more or less around that number. The second compost plant will start to be operational in the coming weeks. They are currently installing the plant. Solar panels were implemented. Development agreement was signed. A supply agreement was signed. A new strategy announced. So that's all done this year. Acquisition of land for the biomethane plant, for the wheatgrass plant, for the second production plant for the Koet farm for cream and skimmed milk. So a lot of things have been finalized, and also now we are in the preparation for next year, which I think in the coming weeks we will announce the vertical farm financing. So to give you general, we go through all the projects for next year. We started discussion with Exim and with ING, mainly on a large part. Okay, the official agreement still need to be sent, but normally we reach an agreement which is also confirmed by their management, which means that for the loans that we will increase with ING, that means 1.5% interest rate. All loans will be in euro. 1.5% interest rate plus Euribor 1 month. As well as we also succeeded with Exim Bank to go for 1.5% interest rate plus Euribor of 6 months, as well as that we negotiated with Exim Bank to reduce the current loans with Exim Bank are on 2% interest rate plus Euribor, and they will lower it to 1.5% as well. I think this shows that the Uruguay is in a strong position, which is recognized by the banks, as we are able to negotiate these kind of interest rate in the current market context. I think this is a really clear and strong message. So if we go to the vertical farm, that will be several millions of euros. We are finalizing to choose between 3 technologies. So the investment will be somewhere, I assume, between 3 million and 5 million euros for the first plant to have a 30 to 40 ton output per day. We aim to put this on the agenda. We are currently finalizing the documents. It will soon be published. Our goal was to have the AGA in December, but I think we will not succeed. So probably it will be in January, probably around between 10 of January. I assume the second week of January, after 11 of January, somewhere in this week, where I will ask you to support or to vote in favor for this vertical farm investments, which will secure food supply for our animals with a constant protein level. It has a lot of health benefits, 90% less water, no pesticides, no herbicides. And we could even think, if we think on a larger scale, if we currently look to the price of milk for bio milk, the bio milk is still really high at the moment. We don't know if this is just a trend or if it remains like that. But the first wheatgrass plant will be installed at the Koet 1 farm. So if we will be able to replace 30% of the wheat stock with wheatgrass, we could quite easily in the future transform this farm in a bio milk farm, which could further sustain our business model. This is something we need to analyze in the coming months if that would make sense. Next to that, of course, the first compost unit in Koet, which is also by the banks approved by bank financing. That would mean a lot of financing, around 1.5 million euros. The Laguna will be financed by own sources. And then the Koet 2 farm, that will be financed by ING. As I said, 1.5% plus Euribor of one month. That will be also on the agenda. And what is not here is the first processing plant. We're also finalizing that. There we estimate an investment of around 3 million euros, again with the same. That will be financed by Exim Bank. So 1.5% interest plus Euribor 6 months. So we have a lot of projects for next year. Some increasing current business models. Of course, further grow with the Straja project. We will add more animals there. The Straja Construction at the Straja farm will be finalized. We expect in the first 6 months of next year. That's also necessary because the team needs to move to the Q2 plots to start construction with the Q2 farm, the wheatgrass facility, etc. So there are a lot of and of course the processing plant, which will be at the Straja 1 farm. So the processing plant and the wheatgrass, we expect to start to have some operations in the summer, and that it really should contribute to the business model. We aim for September, latest October. If we succeed earlier, it would be even better. As well as we have the final investment decision with BSOG Energy for the biomethane plant, and hopefully then also the government implemented this legislation, then we can also start to construct next year the biomethane plant. And there, so far, to be clear, we don't have any, the Anaguar itself doesn't need to invest anything so far. Of course, we have this option of an equity stake of 10 to 20%. This decision should be taken next year as well, around the FID period. Then for the other years, of course, things will slowly move on. I think where you could maybe receive some news next year is regarding the agri-food cluster, as that we started to analyze, to start probably with 8 to 16 hectares in 1 year production facility with a certain crop. And then to increase at least to 40, 50 hectares to produce one certain crop. We are currently discussing with parties in this field who are also active currently in this field in other parts of the world and in Europe, and who also have a strong investment base, let's say, so a real corporate structure, which of course we could benefit from, as they bring in the experience with the type of crop, as well as in this industry and the network. And we see huge potential for Romania here, as there's of course land available to a relatively low price. There's energy available, as well as that there is a huge deficit in this product segment as well. Then we go to the next slide. What we will look in 2030. I highly recommend you to look on our website for the strategy document and to read it when you have some time, maybe around the Christmas days. If you get bored of your family or you have a family fight, then I can highly recommend our strategy document. So here we see even a further increase of integration, biomethane greenhouses, even more control on our feedstock, which is grown directly on our farms, solar, compost, etc. So in the coming years, the Anaguar will transform from currently the largest milk producer in Europe to a more of a agri-food company who produces food in a sustainable and eco-friendly way. Then we can go, and the milk, in the investment that we are currently doing, we will have a milk supply in 2030 of over 150 million liters annually. The Koet farm, I said already, in total, it's including animals, it's 13 to 15 million. The bank loan will be 10 million euros. The rest will be own sources, mainly animals, which means the investments in buildings, etc., and the restricted state assets will be around 7.58 million euros, and the rest will be the animals, which will be raised on our other farms. So even in the coming years, we will not reach this optimum, as I was mentioned, between 1 and 2/3. 2/3 of dairy cows, 1/3 young stock, because we will still significantly grow. This farm will have 5,000 dairy cows as well, like the Straja farm. Then we go to the next slide. We have the status, but I mentioned this more or less already. The permitting phase, we are in the middle of permitting. We finalized more or less land acquisition. Wheatgrass is an important part of this, as well as this farm. We will have probably the opportunity also contract the manure of the Q2 farm to the biomethane plant. And if we will be able to contract it as well, the revenue stream will quite significantly increase from 3.5 million, maybe up to 5 or something like this yearly revenue. As I said, we start construction next year, and we aim to start milking March 2028. The first cows, and it will follow exactly the same pattern as the Straja 1 farm. Then we go to the next slide. Here is how it will look like. So on the right side, we have the Coot 1 farm. On the left side, we have the Coot 2 farm with the road in between. We see 2 pipes. So those farms will be both connected to the biomethane plant, what we see here in the middle. We will have some 3 wheatgrass stations, what you see on top of that, and a skimmed milk and cream plant. And the biomethane plant will be then injected to the grid. So this is highly integrated model. And of course, everything what we can connect with a pipe to the biomethane plant, there we don't have any transportation costs. So you can calculate yourself what type of profit margin we would have there. For the milk, I mentioned already, we estimate 3.5 million. That is including the building for this will be installed at the Straatje 1 farm. We expect to present technology, etc., or to at least to announce the contract still this year, and to have an approval at the shareholders meeting that we will organize specifically for these investments in January. Why? We become a really large player on the market. So we think it is better to further diversify our clientele portfolio, not only in Romania, but also the geographic location. And through these products, we can deliver to more type of clients in different type of industries, as well as we significantly reduce transportation costs, so we can also further export where there are more stable prices for these kind of products. As I said, we expect starting production around the summer. Next slide. I think I mentioned more or less here already. I think we can production capacity of 150,000 liters. I said already. That is the first step of the diversification of our valorization of our commodity. I think we can skip this slide, Daniela, and to move on. Oh no. There I see myself already. So then we should go to the questions. First, we will go to the first 10 questions that are mentioned here, and of course, if there are still topics not answered or you need additional information, we will tackle them afterwards.
So congratulations for the results, Peter. I will start reading the questions that we received in advance, and afterwards the other that we are receiving now live. The first question is regarding to Straja operational progress update and Straja 2 plans. Maybe just for you to summarize what you already presenting.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
Oh. No, it's okay.
Okay. So thank you very much, Daniela. So more or less, now we are implementing the Straatje 1 farm. From next year, we will start to build the Coot 2 farm. Then if we look into our strategy document, we will take a decision for the Straatje 2 farm in 2027, I think 2028, but normally I think we will take the decision in 2027. Aren't we then preparing for the Straatje 2 farm? Yes, we are. We started to acquire land, etc. We will also start to do permitting before the decision. Is that because we think for sure we will start to build this farm? No, at the moment we don't know this. We will only build the Straatje 2 farm if we succeed to sell cream or skimmed milk or maybe other types of products in the future, not final consumer products, but semiconductor products. In that case, we will invest also in another dairy farm of 5,000 animals at the Straatje 2 farm, which will of course increase milk supply of over 200 million liters annually. If we don't really succeed in that, or if that doesn't bring much extra value, we will mainly focus to the other components. So further compost, but mainly the agri-food cluster for fruits and vegetables, let's say. That doesn't mean that we will never or we will not further increase milk, but that would mean that we need to look outside of Romania. We would then analyze. I think Poland is a really interesting market. Bulgaria to a certain extent, but we see a lot of risks there. And of course, I think in the future, if the war will be solved, I think Ukraine will also offer lots of opportunities. So to summarize, currently Straatje 2 plans, preparation phase, permitting phase, decision 2027.
Thank you, Peter. The second question is related to the transfer to the main market and the progress you made since the reporting of the half-year financial results. And I would connect this question with the sixth question, if there will be a share capital increase by cash contribution, because they are connected. So maybe just for you to re-emphasize a bit what you mentioned during the presentation for the people that were not at that point.
Yeah. So what we this year there will be no MCS, or there will no cash contribution. So that's but okay, the year is almost over. Next year there could be. I said only for the agri-food cluster. I think there we would really I think do a capital increase. Of course, in the ideal world, we would really like to attract at that time also some pension funds or other institutional investors. We will go on roadshows in the beginning of the year. That's at least that's the plan in Romania and probably also outside. But the capital increase will only happen when we more or less know what will be our participation, our share in this first development of this first crop or vegetable. Regarding the main market, as I mentioned before, we are finalizing IFRS. So we have now restated 2023, the final result. We have restated quarterly 2024 every quarter. And for 2025, we have restated Q1, Q2. Currently, we're restating Q3. Results expected end of November. This is done by Mazars, as well as the valuation, because from now on, or when IFRS is implemented, assets will be valuated, and stock, etc. They will all be valuated every quarter by a valuator, and this valuation method is currently also audited by Mazars that we do in the meantime. So if everything goes on schedule, we will publish something around this, and maybe we will, as I said, to organize a special call, or we will record a video where we explain how to read the reports, or what are the differences with our current report, with the current legislative report compared to the others, because we go from cost calculation to fair value method. But from next year, we will start to produce figures in IFRS next to the local legislation from Q1 2026. Also, of course, 2025 will be published in IFRS as well. So that's more or less the status. And in December, we will announce when it will be. And it's quite simple. It will be normally either we started to talk with how to say this with some persons, let's say it like this, who could support us with the upgrade to the main market. But we need to discuss with more parties in this regards. That means that either we would do it in 2026, I think October, November, or 2027, April, May, beginning of June, or something in this period. I think that are the two periods that are on the table, and we will inform you in December if we really know, if we have all the information in regards to the agri-food cluster, or that we need to postpone it a few months. But normally, we aim to take a decision in December with the management team at the last management meeting of the year.
Thank you very much for the answer. The next question is related to the expansion into other areas of agriculture and food industry. And I believe that you already touched on this point and you explained the strategy. The fourth question is related to the price forecast for the milk you delivered for 2026 and 2027. If you want to add something more on the milk price here.
Sorry, I lost you a little bit. Which question you would like me to answer?
So, fourth question regarding the price forecast for milk for 2026 and 2027, if you want to add something.
Yeah, I mean, we are in a commodity market, means a world market, so I cannot predict anything to 2026 to 2027. What we see, as I mentioned before, on the long term, we will see a decrease of milk production in Europe. We saw also this the last couple of years. So we have some headwind, mainly to blue tongue, different production cycle, blue tongue and the mouth and claw disease. But that is temporary. On the long term, as well as the processors where we discuss with, and if you see analysts what they are writing on the dairy market, the price will not drop back to like 5 years ago. It will remain with a higher volume. And I think another how you could follow this is what we see in Western Europe. For example, large dairy processors, they are merging with each other to sustain constant delivery to their factories, etc. Because the market is drying up, and we saw it in the last couple of years. Look to Friesland Campina in Western Europe. They merged with a company in Belgium. Arla is looking into Germany, the largest Danish milk processor, etc. So we see a clear consolidation in this market. So in the long term, the price will go up. As you could see in the table as well, we will have an effect in December, and we expect in Q1 as well that there will still be headwind. And after we will see, especially that no one really expected this drop. Also the weak dollar, as I mentioned already. So we need to see what's happening in the coming months. But on the long term, there is no issue or to be stressed about so far as what we can oversee. The long term looks quite good, prosperous. A lot of farmers will stop, as well as the important, especially the contribution from milk to the Enagar's profit in the coming years will be more divided also by the other revenue stream, let's say.
Thank you very much. And talking about long term, the next question is related to how you see the company's future beyond 2030, so beyond the strategy period.
Okay. Thank you very much for this question. It was a lot of effort to write to 2030 already, let's say. So we're just getting a bit extra breath again to think. Now, I mean, we will further increase in the coming years our current business lines, which from our perspective, we have quite an ambitious strategy, especially from not necessarily only from a financing point of view, but especially from an execution point of view. Enagar will grow significantly in the coming years, including an upgrade to the main market, a different type of investor base in the future. But the large project where we work on in the coming years is this agri-food cluster. And of course, that is not a project for 5 years. Because if you talk of a real cluster, that will not have 40 hectares, but it will have several of hundreds of hectares. Okay, we will not do that all by ourselves. You will do it with partners. There will be startups. There will be a whole ecosystem, etc. Maintenance companies, storage companies, all these kind of logistical companies. So that will, if you really want to create this kind of a hub. So of course, that is clearly a project that goes on after 2030. Any other plans so far? I mean, I think we are now, as a management team, really in the mindset to start to execute and to implement the strategy. We announced it in June, and I think we clearly show that we worked hard in the last couple of months, that we now secured financing for the Coutu farm, for the first wheatgrass facility, as well as for the first cream production facility. So that is where we, on the short-term period, will focus on. That doesn't mean that we don't think more on the long term. We have some things in mind, of course, but we can also not share everything, especially not that it's only over a period of 5 years. But as you know us, we are always transparent, and we will know you. We will inform you accordingly and on time. Anyway, normally there should become an update on the strategy in 2028 or 2029. So the update on the strategy will not come in 2030, let's say.
Thank you very much. So among those things that you have in mind, it's also the goat milk an option, because the next question is related to diversifying your dairy products to produce goat milk, for example, if it's something that you are considering.
Yeah, no, I was. Thank you very much for this question, because I never considered, and I think we as a management team never considered this. It sounds really interesting. I mean, on the short term, we have no ambition to go in this industry, but if we grow fast in the coming years, this could be something we could look into, let's say. But let me clear, for the moment, we will not look into this, but this is an interesting market, but it's a completely different animal, as you can all imagine. So I think this would only succeed to an M&A or whatsoever. But clearly the direction in the coming years is towards the extending the foundation, increasing milk supply, find different ways of valorization of the commodity, which is not only cream and skimmed milk, but you can think of more things you could produce. To large blocks of butter, you could even think of chocolate or other things. I mean, you could think in different ways, let's say. So I think that would be a more logical step to look more to in this kind of direction, let's say.
Thank you very much. The next question is related to the website and when you plan to release the website with the future projects.
Yeah, we are a little bit delayed there because I promised, I think, at the end of October. The consultant who makes this page is working on it, and this should come online in the coming weeks. At least for the project for next year, but we aim to finalize it. So yeah, our apology that we didn't succeed so far, but the consultant, the IT consultant, the external consultant who manage this is working on it, and it will come in the coming weeks online. We will send a newsletter out when you can visit with the link exactly to the part of the website, and it will constantly update. So you will find all the steps per business segment per year. You will be able to select between these kind of things, the progress that is made, the next steps that are done, when to expect, when financing is expected, etc. To some, we will add an ROE. I think mainly in years, so a return on investment of what we expect 2-3 years, when it will come in the budget, etc. So to give you some guidance there. To some, you will see that there is no ROE yet because sometimes we don't know exactly, or we didn't choose for the final technology.
Okay, and one last question from received in advance, and then we'll go to the questions that we are receiving now live. It's related to if Napolact were going to go on sale in the next 2 to 3 years, would you be interested in buying it?
Now, I think it's not on the table anyway. We don't have. I mean, there is a reason that we invest in the skimmed milk and cream factory. This is mainly due that we don't want to compete with our clients. I think that is never necessarily a smart way of doing things. So we don't really look into that direction. Napolact is a really strong brand. It's a really well perceived brand, from what I understand. And next to that, it is not on the table because Napolact is sold to Bona Farm. Of course, with the approval of the competition council, etc., which is still ongoing. But no, we have no ambition at the moment to take over Napolact or whatsoever. We focus on skimmed milk, cream, diversification of clients, doing what we're good at, agri-food cluster, and of course, valorizing our manure.
Okay, thank you. So the live question that we are now receiving, the first questions are related again with the milk price, and how do you know that the milk price will be down in the next months? Basically, I believe here they wanted to ask about the main drivers or tendencies and from where you...
Yeah, so I stated that already. Well, the weak dollar, so America, not necessarily to Europe, but to other parts of the world, can due to the weak dollar, their milk exports increases, as well as the natural production. The general production cycle in Europe has a certain flow with how much milk comes on the market or how many volumes on the market per part of the year or each quarter. Now there is some disruption there due to the mouth and claw disease and the blue tongue. At that time, the cows didn't get pregnant, so the pregnancy was delayed. Now they are all calving, so this will dry up in the next period. That is something we know for sure. With this regards to the conversion between dollar and euro, of course, that we don't know. But as I said, this is, and it's not what we think necessarily or whatsoever, but the discussion that we have with processors, etc. And I mean, with the largest ones in Europe that are not small ones, and those are huge multinationals who have operation all over the world. Everyone sees it temporary. Some say it is 3 months. Some say there will be some headwind 6 months. We don't know if the price will further drop than the price what we will have in December. But as I said, there was also a correction mechanism for some earlier months. And why we know for the coming months already what we will receive, that has to do with the indicator where our price is connected to. what is currently paid, we will always receive that price, or that will be our price the next month. So we know always at least 1 month, the at least for the next month, what our general price will be. But as said, that is really on the short term. If we look up from now to 2030, nothing to be worried about. This will maintain a higher level, where also taking consideration for next year, we will of course further optimize our production cost. I mean, Strasia will deliver more milk, we'll have more cows, which means a lower production cost. Also, we expect still further increase of production in the Apold farm, so more liters of milk, etc., divided by the production cost. So we will also optimize our cost structure. But it is clear, I mean, we will have some headwind, at least what we now see, that at least it will be this price or slightly lower. What we have in December, at least probably also for January or February.
Thank you very much. And the follow-up question here, it's as follows. Does this mean that in the first months of 2026, the milk price will fall below the 2024 average?
Sorry, one more time.
So basically the milk price in the first months of 2026, if they will be below the prices of the average of 2024. Average price for 2024.
In 2026, yes, that is clear, because we are now in Q4. Q4 already lower on that regard, and also lower than the average price for this year. But to give you, I mean, if we think of the initial budget that we published at the beginning of the year, we are more or less on the price now, let's say, of the initial budget that we published from December. Let's say if we look to not the efforts of Q4, if we only look to December, if we plus there the bonus on more or less, let's say that is more or less on the budget that we initially proposed. But now I really do it really from my head, but if I remember well, I think that is how we established the budget. So it is not so terrible, let's say. I mean, maybe as some would argue, we would go to between scenario 2 and 3, or around these kind of scenarios. And I mean, there is still that is also what we estimated. I mean, we have this year an amazing good milk price. It is not so sustainable from that perspective. We have a 28% profit margin. Generally, for the years to come, I think we would be already more than satisfied if we succeed with a profit margin of 18-20%. And that was also before this year, on average in the last couple of years, the margin that we had. It was always 18%. I think we had 1 year 15% or something, but mainly it was around 18-19%. And that is still in this sector a really competitive margin. Up to some years, and then we will get the compost and the biomethane, and there we will at least see on the margin an increase, clearly.
Thank you very much. The next question is related to how you will be able to offset the decrease in milk prices in early 2026 in order to maintain growth. So you mentioned the costs and higher production. And here is the question: how much you expect to be the production in 2026?
That we will announce at the production. We will announce in the budget next year, so I'm not going to announce this now. But of course, the production in liters of milk will probably more or less follow the same increase, probably as we more or less announced last year for this year. Let's say that person did something probably around that. And how we're going to offset now, of course, I mean, by the end of the day, we are in a commodity market. So I don't know if we will be able to completely offset this just to increase milk production, because we will have also higher food costs. Because we had, and to take it in consideration, we had a terrible, but I mean, we had not a really good agricultural year in our region. It was the driest part of the country where we were in. And the year before, 2024, we had an extremely well agricultural year, so that will also have an impact. So on Q1, mainly needs to come from milk. Of course, it needs to come from compost partially, and further optimizing production cost. But I think we should look a bit more on the long term than just 1 or 2 months. That's and look then also to our strategy. You should see it more as for a long-term investment if you want to be part in the DNR group. And then significant investment are announced. We are investing significantly for a coming year, and this should even come more into revenues, but especially also in profitability in 2027 and especially in 2028. And this is always what we have said. And in the meantime, there can be some headwind on the commodity. But that is the reason we invest in wheatgrass. We invest in this production facility for cream and skimmed milk, as well as valorizing the manure. So, but for Q1, of course, if the price more or less remains like this, that would mean if you want to do your calculations, we are more or less then I think in scenario 2. But okay, there I don't include now the slight increase in feed cost. But I think in total we will be able to further optimize our production costs. So probably that we will be able to eliminate, let's say. But I mean, if if it comes close to the spot market, of course, it will be difficult to overpass Q1. But over the next year as a whole, we are positive. Let's say so. We have not much worries. But for Q1, I find it tricky to say because we had now this sharp decline for December, and I will know in 1 or 2 weeks what it will be for January. Let's say, but this at the moment we don't know. So will it stop there? Then of course we'll be more confident than when we will have another sharp correction.
Thank you. And now moving from milk to compost. So regarding the compost, do you estimate how much do you estimate you will produce in 2026? And if it will be sold as fertilizer, how much and at what price per ton?
Yeah. So there's some good news and bad news. I mean, the certification of organic fertilizer by EcoCert is extremely, and I hope they don't watch today, but they were extremely slow. I mean, finally last week, someone visited a plant, some of the other production plants in our region, and they will also soon visit us finally. But this organization, moves quite slow. That's mainly to the fact that I think there's one employee in Romania, but it's a French organization. But finally things are progressing. We get a lot of questions to answer, etc. So finally things are progressing. Soon we will see the first plant of the same technology to be certified. So there's no issue that it will not be certified. At least that is what they assured us. So we start now to sell fertilizer, but of course for a different price at the moment, because of course you cannot ask the same price uncertified. Next year, so this year we budgeted 3,500 tons to produce and to sell outside of the group. For next year, I think we aim to sell between 8,000 and 10,000 tons. Something like this we will add that is in the budget for next year to sell outside of the group, while we have a production capacity of 14,000 tons. So probably we'll sell around 8,500 tons outside of the group, because now the Lacto Agrar Farm is implemented, but it takes 3 months or around this to, at least we gain experience with the previous plan, but it takes some months to optimize the recipe. So we will probably be able to sell around 8,000 tons, 8,500. Current market prices are between 180 and 220 euros, let's say. So, but of course, that are market prices. We need to see if we'll be able. But there's clearly interest. There are also some groups interested who will repack it with their own brand. So there are different ways to go. But we are comfortable and quite comfortable with that. We will sell next year 8,000 tons. Next to that, we also started with the Dutch company to get the European certification as well. This is also what we expect to receive in the coming months. I also expect in Q1, but I barely dare to do any estimation on this anymore, because no, it is not in our hands. But no, that is what they told us. And then we can also sell outside of Romania as well.
Thank you very much. The next question is related to the subsidies, and how much do you estimate the evolution of the revenues from subsidies to to be in 2026 compared to 2025?
That really depends on the milk production and the number of animals that we enter extra into the farm. This figure we will update, especially what we do all the time, how many are eligible, etc. For next year, and this will be, I think it will be updated in the budget for next year. But this is something we didn't publish yet.
Okay, next question is related to the profitability in Q4 2025 compared to Q4 2024, if it is single digit or double digit growth. So Q4 to Q4 comparison, if you can give an indication.
Michaela, maybe she can support me a little bit here, not to make a mistake here. I mean, the normally the growth normally what I can say for sure is that the growth normally will be smaller than Q4 last year, because we not have only the recalculation of the standard cost, etc. What we added to the crops, and we in 2024, as I said, we had a really good year. In 2025 we don't have this, so we will have a negative on that this year, while we didn't have it last year. As well as I mentioned already, that the milk price, the contracted price, there will be a difference of a bit over 3%. I think I really do it now from my head, but 3.2 or something like this. On average, a lower milk price in Q4 next year compared to, Q4 this year compared to the previous year. Michaela, you have something? Could you add something to this part? Because you're now in the middle of this recalculation.
No, but if it's possible, we can come with more exact data after by mail, if it's necessary.
Yeah, no.
We
yes,
can
but
stay with the budget that we already announced. Of course, with a lower trend of growth compared to this up to June this year.
Yeah, no, yeah, but also Q4 it will have a lower growth than last year. I mean, we have not finalized yet this recalculation that will be done in the coming weeks. So so we can come close to it. But I mean, generally speaking, we still aim that it will be between the 48 and 52 million. So we don't intend to increase the budget, let's say, if that is the question. That doesn't mean necessarily that it can go over or whatsoever, but due this correction in December and not exactly, we don't have the exact estimate for the production cost yet, which I think Michael will finalize in 2 weeks. Let's do it like this. We will add an alinea in the newsletter for December with the milk chart, and we will add some additional information on that part. I think then we have the clear picture.
Thank you, Peter and Michaela. The next question is related to an outlook for weather in 2026, considering that the quantities of corn and clover are plunging this year, and if you have an outlook here for the weather.
For 2026?
Yes, for the weather.
Now, I think we also had the chart with the rainfall. We still have, after 9 months, half of it compared to the previous year. So of course, it doesn't look necessarily that good. Now, at the moment, we have quite some rainfall. So that's, but now that is again problematic for the wheat grain and these kind of things. I mean, I cannot predict the weather, so I think this is yeah, I don't really know how to answer this question, honestly. We try to control everything, but now so far we didn't succeed to control the weather. What I can say is we are completely aware of this climate change, and as becoming more and more of an industrial company, this is the main reason that we start to invest in this wheatgrass. So to have constant in your feedstock, in your feed ratio, a constant quality of fresh food of 30%, fresh food with a protein between 20 and 23% at least, maybe even 26, and it has certain other health benefits as well. But this is the main reason we start to invest in this, to become less dependent on the climate. And when we implement the wheatgrass, what we will see, or what we won't do now, we have also second crops. So after we harvest the wheat grain, we start to sow. Also, again, extra made corn, etc., and these kind of things. Now, these kind of things we will with the second crop or second culture, is a more accurate term. These kind of things we will probably then don't do anymore in the future. But of course, I mean, the rainfall, this is unpredictable, and if we see the first 9 months, that is still problematic. We will see at the end of the year. Maybe what we could do, I can ask Adina, maybe what we could do in the newsletter for January. Adina, take a note to include the rainfall for the whole year in the newsletter of January. I think we could do that, and maybe we can write something around it, how it went with the wheat grain, etc., sowing, and how we see the first few months of this crop.
Thank you, Peter. Just a follow-up to the previous question. So the investor said that he's okay with the answer that you provided regarding the growth in Q4 versus Q4, just for you to know. And moving to the next question, do you work with Hochland in Romania?
No.
Okay. Next.
What I need to add to that is the majority of the milk is contracted to 5-6 factories. We also sell some milk to traders. So, I mean, through this trader, in theory, we don't know where the milk goes. So, okay, in that case, it could be that it adds up in Hoogland, but we don't have a direct contract with them.
Thank you. The next question is related to the exports. If you see increases in Q4 and in 2026.
No, I don't expect in Q4 significant increases. As of course, the milk that we sold to Greece and Northern Italy so far, that is mainly sold with short-term contracts. At the moment, there's an oversupply of milk on the market, so of course it will be harder to compete. We expect later, let's say after Q1 next year, to see a further increase there. This year, we would like to have sold more to Northern Italy and Greece, but we were not able because the rest of the milk was contracted, but we could have delivered significantly more. And of course, especially in the summer season, there's a huge supply in the tourist season in request in Greece, etc. So that we could further increase, and that's the reason also more export or more significant steps should come from the skimmed milk and cream facility. But in Q4, no. And anyway, December is every year a difficult year. Because of Christmas and New Year, etc., processors, they don't collect milk, etc. So anyway, in December there is generally pressure on the milk market. There was a part of December there is always an oversupply.
Thank you very much. And very short, if you can answer, when do you expect to publish the IFRS reports? It is a follow-up question regarding IFRS. So basically the figures according to IFRS.
Okay. So I think if we would, let's see how it goes. I think for the 9 months and for 2024, 2025, so the first 9 months and then the whole year 2024 and the end result of 2023, I think we will be able to still publish something this year. Let's say we will announce it on the BVB as well as through a newsletter probably, and to see then in what kind of format we will explain these results together, of course, with Mazars.
Thank you. Another question, it's related to what does it mean Laguna Atapold? If you can just explain.
Yeah, so Laguna, that's not a blue lagoon. it's a black lagoon. So it's a kind of storage facility where we store manure. So what will happen when we implement the biomethane project? So manure goes into the biomethane. From that you produce gas, and then you get digestate out. A part of the digestate will go into the composting plant, and a part will go to the lagunas that we go. We will quite invest. Okay, the amounts are not so large. One laguna is over 100,000 euros. But what we will do in the coming years is to build in the fields several of these kind of lagoons. So the manure comes out, parts goes to the compost factory. What remains the digestate will go directly to the fields, and we will storage it in lagunas into the fields. Why we are doing this? To cut one more time transportation, because otherwise we could bring it back to the farms, and then after that we need to bring it from that farm again to the fields where it needs to be used as a fertilizer. When we now build these kind of lagoons in fields where we have a lot of hectares compacted, we can hang the manure pipe, the 8 kilometer pipe that we have in this lagoon, and the tractor can then fertilize 45 hectares per day. This is a technology we invested in a couple of years ago. First, the tractor could fertilize 14 hectares per day. Plus, we had transportation costs and fuel costs, etc. Okay, they are part of the transportation costs, but with trucks bringing the manures to the tractor and reload, etc. So that's the main idea. It's a further efficiency improvement.
Thank you very much, Peter. And the last two questions that we have. The first one, it starts with congratulations to the entire DN Agrar team for outstanding results and the fact that your diligent work is reflected in the numbers. And in this direction, the question is related to the depreciation impact in the next years, keeping in mind the high capex in the new projects. So what will be basically the depreciation impact?
Yeah, so of course we will see an increase in depreciation. What will income next year? It will be the wheatgrass facility, because we will construct it and it will start to produce. So we'll start to depreciate. So that we will probably see in the second part of the year. The depreciation period is around I think 25 years for the wheatgrass facility. Then we have so that will be, depends on the investment, 3 to 5 million euros, let's say, for now, somewhere there, with a depreciation period of 25 years, which come into force in the second part of the year. Then we have the skimmed milk and cream production plant. What we will see there is also normally that will be finalized. Let's say maybe it will come into force in September. So second part, I mean already end of Q3 in this, and that we estimate an investment of 3 to 3.5 million euros, with a depreciation period as well of 20 to 25 years. So that will come into force. The Q2 farm with the 10 million, we don't see an effect there next year, because the loan will ask now. We will have in the contract, of course, that we need to use it in 2 years. We have a term of 2 years, and what we need to see only for next year we will start to flatten the land and these kind of things, and maybe to start to pour some concrete, but that will only be the works for next year. And the main investment will be in 2027, and the farm will only be partially finalized in 2028, when we will start with the first 1,800 animals, etc. So that impact we will not see directly in the coming years, let's say. So mainly on the short term, it will be the wheatgrass facility and what did I say more? The wheatgrass and the skimmed milk and cream. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And to sum up, the last question, it's regarding the main avenues of growth for 2026 that ensure a steady growth, basically. So the main drivers that will ensure a steady growth in 2026.
For revenue, of course, it is the milk price, let's say, that would help mostly. Further optimization of production cost. I mean, that is clear, and we will improve next year, because, as I said, Strasje will produce more milk. We'll have more animals. We have currently too many employees, etc. Let's say for the size of the herd at the Strasje farm. So there we will see quite some improvements. We will see improvements on the Apold farm. I mean, if we look to the Koet farm and Lacto Agar farm, they are performing quite well, also on production cost at the moment. So there I don't mean growth, as well as the compost. I mean, there we should see the first, because we will sell a larger amount throughout the year next year. So that should be the main growth drivers. Of course, we could argue, as well as skimmed milk, cream, and wheatgrass, we will see an impact next year, but it mainly depends when they really start operations, when we optimize those. So I would to really see more significance in, you would see there in 2020, 2027. And the main growth driver next year is, of course, the growth from the Strasje farm. I mean, that must be clear.
So no further questions at this point. Maybe just closing from your side.
Well, yeah. First of all, thank you very much for being part of the DNGR family. If not, we hope, of course, to have you convinced today to become part of the DNGR. From our perspective, the company is still quite undervaluated. So far, since we got listed, we have kept our promises. We say what we do, and especially we do what we say. That is also what we expect for the coming years. From here, I would also like to thank the management team and the entire DNGR group for the constant ambition and constant implementation of projects. I mean, without being too overconfident, I think we clearly have shown in the last couple of years that we know how to execute, and the company is really how it's built up and structured. It is really an executing machine from that perspective. I think if we look with some headwind in the coming months, but if you look to our investment plan, the investment that I announced today, where we will have an AGA for in January, further increase of milk supply, wheatgrass optimization of food cost and welfare through that, compost, biomethane, anti-agri-food cluster, a lot of projects on the roll, I would say. And we are significantly investing in the coming years with the start of the construction of the Kutu farm next year. So if you have a long-term mindset, I think the NGR offers you a really good investment case from our perspective. This is the last time this year that we will see each other normally live. So I wish you lots of health. Take care. Have an amazing holiday season. And then we see each other at the shareholders meeting in January and with the preliminary results in February. And then we will start to take some rest at the end of the year and then get full energy back for next year, as we have a lot of projects for next year to implement, but also to start operations. So it will be a really interesting year next year with the next phase and really start of implementation of the 2025-2030 strategy. So I wish you all a lovely evening, a lovely end of the year, and then we see each other in January. Thank you very much.